Watchtower organization, the spiritual leader of 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses around the world, has a long history of erasing the past. In this channel, we have reviewed several videos that Watchtower has erased, like the Toni Morris rant against higher education, and the atrocious shunning videos they pulled from their conventions. And now, they're back at it again. A few weeks back, Watchtower deleted another video from their website, titled Loyally Uphold Jehovah's Judgment, which follows the story of Sonja Erickson, a young Jehovah's Witness who was disfellowshipped and shunned by her own mother. I have briefly referenced this video in the past, but since Watchtower is back with their bullshit again, trying to gaslight us, I figured I might as well show you what they're trying to hide. This is the deleted shunning video.
It feels so good to be with my family and friends. When I'm with the brothers and sisters in our congregation, it's the best place I could be. My children and I are so happy now. But it hasn't always been this way. My parents were missionaries when my mom got pregnant with me. Mom and Dad were very zealous, and people just assumed that I would follow in their footsteps. And for a while I did. I was the model child who was always held up as an example. Sure, the attention boosted my self-confidence, but it also put me under enormous pressure. It was like everyone was watching me, and I couldn't make a mistake.
In a rare display of self-awareness, Watchtower acknowledges how much pressure some of their children endure growing up in this religion, especially when their parents are seen as extra spiritual members. Jehovah's Witnesses don't practice infant baptism in the same way that the Catholic Church does, but children are encouraged to get baptized as soon as possible, sometimes as young as 10 years old. Baptism functions as a long life contract to the organization because disobeying the rules after you get baptized brings much more harsh punishments.
In my mid-teens, I began to feel torn. I liked the truth, but I felt so confined. I didn't tell anyone how I felt. I just pretended everything was all right and went through the motions. I envied kids who didn't have to live under so many restrictions. And if they got the truth later in life, they got to experience the best of both worlds.
This is what happens when you have children committing to an organization so early in life. Once they become teenagers and they start developing, their own thinking ability, maybe they start feeling this religion is not for them. But of course, they can't quit now because going against your dedication can bring terrible consequences.
I thought maybe things would improve after I graduated high school. But then at my new job, I met Eric. He truly understood me. He made me feel special. And I loved him. I loved him. In many ways, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I could just do what I wanted. It wasn't long before our relationship became intimate. I felt guilt at first, but after a while, it just seemed that this is what two people who love each other do. And I was willing to give up everything for him. Everything.
So Sonja fell in love. That's the most normal thing that can happen to you. But of course, JWs are not allowed to date worldly people, people outside the religion. So in the eyes of the community, she's already going down the wrong path. So in case you're new around here, when a JW is disfellowshipped, he is effectively cut off from everyone in the congregation and from any Jehovah Witness family member. You couldn't even say hello to a disfellowshipped person. And considering most Jehovah's Witnesses were raised in the religion and the religious community is all they've known, being disfellowshipped equals social death. It's possibly one of the most cruel punishments I can think of.
Looking back, my parents tried hard to do the right thing. To do things Jehovah's way. But because I didn't have a hatred for what's bad, I couldn't see anything wrong with my choices. This eventually led me to do things I later regretted. I ended up getting disfellowshipped.
Sonja Erickson has been disfellowshipped.
It crushed my whole family.
Okay, to continue the meeting, we may remember last month's service.
Later, my father explained to me that I couldn't remain in the home because I refused to change my lifestyle. He told me I was having a negative effect on my younger brother and sister. And I'm out of this house. I was determined to do what I wanted. When I left home that day, all I could think about was Eric. I didn't even care that my parents' hearts were breaking.
Every time Watchtower portrays someone that is disfellowshipped, they always treat the believing family as the victim. But Sonja was essentially kicked out of her house for the crime of dating an unbeliever. I've heard cases of young girls in Mexico being disfellowshipped, usually after getting a teen pregnancy, and they're kicked out of their homes. Sonja wasn't bringing drugs into the house or living a life of crime, but she's still seen as a corrosive influence on her family members simply for the reason that she's disfellowshipped.
I didn't think about the devastation and disappointment that I had caused them. I blamed my parents for my situation. I even blamed Jehovah. My family missed me so much, even after all I had done. What helped them to remain loyal to Jehovah for the many years I was disfellowshipped? It was the Bible account of Aaron. Jehovah directly judged 2 of Aaron's sons and put them to death. In this case, Jehovah asked Aaron and his family not to mourn, in order to show the entire nation that they supported Jehovah's judgment. Mom and Dad saw that they needed to be loyal, just like Aaron.
Whenever Watchtower needs to defend their more inhumane policies, they always turn to the Old Testament, and the story of Aaron is one of their favorites. Just think about how cruel this story is. God kills 2 of Aaron's sons for desecrating his temple, yet Aaron is not allowed to mourn their death. JW parents are also expected to face the symbolic loss of their children with the same cold-faced stoicism, because begrudging the decisions of the elders would equal renegating against God himself.
They loved me and wanted me to come back to Jehovah. I tried to contact them. I just wanted to talk and to hear their voice. I missed being with my family. And they thought about reaching out to me. But they knew that if they had associated with me, even a little, just to check on me, that small dose of association might have satisfied me. It could have made me think that there was no need to return to Jehovah.
Is this not blackmail, guys? The only way Sonja can speak with her parents again is if she returns to the congregation. What if she no longer believes in the religion? It doesn't matter. In that case, she's supposed to pretend and beg the elders to reinstate her, because as long as she stays disfellowshipped, she's not allowed to even say hi to her family. Not even a, "Hey, mom and dad, I'm still alive" message. Sonja could have been at the hospital giving this call to her mother, and her mother was still not supposed to answer.
I was disfellowshipped for more than 15 years. I had 2 children now, and as time went by, I thought about their future. I thought more and more about returning to Jehovah and the congregation, but I didn't feel worthy.
Psalm 86.
One day, 2 elders stopped by and kindly reminded me that Jehovah wants me to return to him. They showed me Psalm 86 verse 5, where it says that Jehovah is ready to forgive. I thought about that verse the rest of the day. Jehovah is ready to forgive. So I decided to go to the Kingdom Hall for the first time in many years.
Remorse is healthy. It can move us to take positive steps to correct our mistakes.
Most Kingdom Halls will usually have a small room in the back like this. This is usually where disfellowship people sit. They're technically not obligated to sit in the back, but since you can't talk to anyone, it just makes it a little less awkward.
It made me realize just how far off track I had gotten. I was determined to qualify for reinstatement. Nearly a year later, my reinstatement was announced to the congregation.
It took an entire year for Sonja to be reinstated. 1 year! This is not uncommon, by the way. It all depends on your elders and on the type of sin you committed, but some elders will reinstate you after a few months, usually more than 6, and others will prolong your sentence for years at a time.
Sonja Erickson is reinstated as one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
I was so happy. The brothers and sisters welcomed me very warmly. Being back together again with my family and Jehovah made me feel so good. I knew this is where I needed to be, and I didn't ever want to leave again.
Yikes. If you've ever been in a Kingdom Hall, you have seen how eerie this protocol actually is. At the beginning of the meeting, everyone will be treating you like the plague, completely ignoring your existence, but by the end of the meeting, after one simple announcement, everyone will come flocking to you to give you a big hug. And they will act like they haven't been shunning you for the past few months. It's actually insane.
But when I'm alone, I struggle with whether Jehovah has really forgiven me. One time I was so distraught that I called my father for help. He comforted me with the words of Isaiah 1 verse 18, where Jehovah says that our sins, which are like scarlet or crimson cloth, can become white like snow. Then my father related the Bible account of Manasseh. Manasseh did on a grand scale what was bad in Jehovah's eyes to offend him. He even sacrificed his sons in false worship. Eventually, Manasseh genuinely repented, and Jehovah forgave him. This Bible account touched me deeply. Now, I have to be willing to forgive myself. If Jehovah was willing to forgive the sins of Manasseh, as bad as they were, surely he has forgiven me. What a blessing to understand that Jehovah forgives in a large way. And now, I'm truly happy.
And in another hit of irony, Watchtower uses the story of Manasseh to assure their members of Jehovah's forgiveness. But they don't realize that the story of Manasseh actually condemns them. How crazy is it that Jehovah, who struck down 2 of Aaron's sons and ordered him not to mourn, yet this very same deity displayed more compassion than the elders. Jehovah was willing to forgive Manasseh for the crimes of sacrificing his sons to false gods, but the elders took 1 whole year to reinstate Sonja because she dated an unbeliever years ago. Sonja was publicly humiliated, kicked out of her house, and shunned by her entire social circle for 15 years. And even after being reinstated, she still struggled with feelings of shame. Yeah, no wonder Watchtower erased this video from their website. It's horrific, and I believe the Norwegian government actually played this video on their trial when Watchtower tried to pull their bullshit and pretend that they don't shun people. The Norwegian government pulled this video as evidence that they do shun, and I think that's the reason why they deleted it. And it gets even worse because as I was writing this script, there was a post on ExJW Reddit where we see that Watchtower has sent a letter to the Norwegian government practically begging for the government to bring back their state funding, which is like 1.5 million euros a year, and telling them, hey, we changed our shunning policy, we did what you asked of us, so can we have our money back? That's the price it takes to change one of God's laws. 1.5 million euros. It's all about money in this organization. Hopefully Norway sees through the bullshit and refuses to give them back their money. I don't know about you, but I don't think European governments should be giving money to a religion that constantly violates human rights. And it's not the only shunning video they have put out. There's another one that I want to show you guys because I just know it's just a matter of time before they erase that one as well. This one takes place in Brazil, of course, because the shunning practices of Jehovah's Witnesses happen all around the world, from the Congo to Thailand.
My name is Gabriella. Ben and I have always enjoyed attending the meetings. But lately, it's been difficult. Something was missing. Our son. It was like watching a movie of someone else's family. I couldn't believe this was happening to us.
Agora temos o anúncio que será feito pelo nosso irmão José Luiz.
Our son Levi was no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
So in this video, Levi decides to write a letter of disassociation, in which you write a letter stating that you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. You don't have to sin, you don't have to have sex before marriage and be judged, but quitting this religion by writing a letter brings the same consequences as being disfellowshipped.
The elders and friends in the congregation were so supportive and understanding. Many of them watched Levi grow up, give his first talk, get baptized. I was so torn. I was disappointed in Levi for leaving Jehovah, but I was more disappointed in myself. I felt like we failed him somehow. I kept wondering how he was doing. Was he okay? Then, as hard as the past few weeks had been, it just got harder. I knew what the Bible said about quit mixing in company with anyone who is not living according to Christian standards, but I never thought that scripture would one day apply to me.
Now, looking at this as an outsider, you might feel enraged at the parents for shunning their child, and rightfully so. But remember, the parents are also in a way victims to this system. Levi's mom has been indoctrinated herself, and she truly believes that in order to please God, she needs to shun her own child. Levi wasn't even disfellowshipped for any particular sin. He simply did not want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. But you know that there is no graceful way to leave this religion. There are always grave consequences on your person or on your social connections.
Later that evening, a brother was talking about the example of Korah's sons. Jehovah confirmed that he was using Moses to lead his people, not Korah. When the people were told to move away from the rebels' tents, what would Korah's sons do? Would they put loyalty to family ahead of loyalty to Jehovah? The Bible tells us that his sons remained loyal to Jehovah and were blessed for it.
Yep, I told you, another Old Testament story to justify their horrific policies.
That night, after the meeting, I told Ben about the text I received from Levi. I told him everything. How I miss Levi so much, but that I also wanted to be loyal to Jehovah, like Korah's sons. Ben admitted that he too had been struggling with feelings like mine. But then, he said something that I hadn't thought of. If we were to stand between Levi and the discipline he needs, we would in effect be blocking an expression of Jehovah's love from reaching him. In fact, it's our very loyalty to Jehovah that could save his life. We agreed to continue to put our trust in Jehovah and stay loyal to him. It's been 5 years now, and while Levi still hasn't returned to Jehovah, I haven't given up hope on him. Until that day, I'm staying busy as a regular pioneer and focusing my energies on helping others learn about Jehovah. I've come to experience firsthand the truth of Psalm 97:10. Jehovah really does guard his loyal ones.
Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that the entire disfellowshipping arrangement is actually framed as a show of love from Jehovah? After all, God disciplines those he loves. So of course he wants you to undergo months of social death and psychological torture because he loves you. This is how JWs are convinced to shun their loved ones. Because when your sense of love has been completely warped by this religion, you are willing to cut off your own flesh and blood because you have convinced yourself that it's the loving thing to do. It's beyond fucked. The shunning policy actually contributed to my waking up from this religion. I haven't shared this on the main channel, I only mentioned it briefly in my waking up story. That's only available to members now, but maybe I'll release it later. But back when I was still a witness, I went on a preaching campaign to Thailand for 6 weeks. I was helping out the Thai congregation. And I will never forget this. Like, I was having a conversation with this Thai couple in the hall, and they had 2 sons, 1 son and 1 daughter. And the son went with them to the meetings. And when I asked them, hey, where's your daughter? They told me she's disfellowshipped. We don't speak with her. And that was very impactful because right then and there, I realized I traveled halfway across the world to convert people in a Buddhist majority country. And what wonderful things were we teaching these people? We were teaching them to shun their closest family members if they were ever to leave the religion. Not only that, we were teaching them that disfellowshipping and shunning were a reflection of Jehovah's love. I never recovered from that realization. Shunning is a barbaric practice. It rips families apart. It's psychological torture for both the disfellowshipped person and their families. And sadly, some members have even taken their own life after losing their entire social structure overnight. Now, since I started this channel, I have produced a few videos on disfellowshipping, and to be transparent, the organization has made some changes to the policy since then, but these changes have been very minor. For example, now disfellowship people can be reinstated a little faster. Also, Jehovah's Witnesses are now allowed to say hello to a disfellowship member in the congregation, so you don't have to completely shun them. You can at least say hello, how you doing, very small talk, and you're also able to give them a phone call inviting them to the meeting. They have also dropped the term disfellowshipped and replaced it with being removed. So now you're not a disfellowship person, you're someone who was removed from the congregation. It's all semantics. It was all done to please the Norwegian courts. But the practice remains essentially the same.
What if a disfellowship person comes to a congregation meeting? Under our current arrangement, we don't say a greeting to individuals who've been removed from the congregation. However, the governing body has decided that publishers can use their Bible-trained conscience to decide whether to give a simple greeting and welcome a disfellowshipped individual who attends a congregation meeting.
Hi, so good to see you here.
Thank you.
While we wouldn't have an extended conversation or socialize with such a person, we do not need to ignore him completely.
The governing body treats these small concessions as a massive show of God's mercy, because when you're starving, even crumbs feel like a banquet. Although the recent changes are a step in the right direction, they are not enough. Disfellowshipping needs to end. Members need a way to leave the religion without losing their families and friends. But the sad thing is that in the latest annual meeting, governing body member Kenneth Cook reaffirmed that the governing body would never get rid of the disfellowshipping policy. But I actually doubt that. Government pressure in Europe has already led to a few concessions. So I suspect that if more European governments clamp down on this religion, eventually Watchtower will have to get rid of the policy altogether. You know that they bend over backwards for money, so they just need to keep adding more pressure, and maybe one day, hopefully, they just get rid of this horrific policy. Watchtower wanted to erase this video, but now it's here on YouTube for everyone to see. Hey Watchtower, your cult manipulation and gaslighting is not gonna work on us. So guys, I never asked you to do this, but please leave a like and drop a comment so more people are made aware of this deleted video and they get to see the truth about this horrific policy. And please let me know in the comments your personal experience with shunning. Are you disfellowshipped at the moment? Were you shunned by your family and friends? Please let us know so everyone can get an idea of how impactful this policy actually is.